I'm Allie with PotomacBeads. In this Better Beader episode, we are going to be discussing 1 versus 2 needle right angle weave. These Better Beader episodes often come from questions that occur during our Facebook Lives, our YouTube Lives, or our Twitch sessions. Remember, if you do want to make any suggestions down below, give your opinion in that comments area to let us know what you would like to see more in depth or have some questions answered. I've touched on this before, but I want to go over the benefits as well as the difference between these two forms of right angle weave. Sometimes referred to both as right angle weave, sometimes referred to as right angle weave and diagonal stitch. I'm going to show you the thread paths, how they look identical, and answer some questions as far as why you might choose one versus the other, as well as how patterns can be converted from 2 needles into 1 or vice versa. So the first thing to recognize is and look for what is right angle weave. Right angle weave is referred to as RAW or RAW, standing for right angle weave, because you are using components to make right angles or a box. When looking at something that is a right angle, you are looking at that right angle that's created. When we add our beads in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, those right angles are happening on the corners of all of our beads. That's the reference of the raw stitch. Here I have 2 different pieces laying of the exact same bead, the exact same way that I accomplished with 2 different methods. In this method here, I'm using the traditional right angle weave, which is 1 needle, versus this one here, which uses 2. They're both going to come out with the exact same product as far as the look. However, the things that are going to be a little bit different is going to be the tension. The tension is going to be affected because with 1 needle, you're going to have more passes through the individual beads than you are with 2 needles. When it comes to right angle weave with 2 needles, I'm going to start there. I have only 1 thread going through my side beads, or the beads that are going to be on the side of the piece here. Only 1 thread is ever going to be on these side units. I pick up 1 with 1 needle, 1 with the other, and then I do what's sometimes referred to as a crisscross or a diagonal stitch with my 3rd and final bead. 1 needle is going to go from right to left, the other from left to right. When I pull those needles equally, that final bead drops down into place, and I have that right angle unit completed. Each grouping is going to be 1 raw unit. So I now have those 3 raw units completed. When I go in to add my next beads, 1 on the right, 1 on the left, and then once again having that crisscross unit where I have 1 needle going one way, 1 needle going the opposite way, and then pull that down. I have 2 strands consistently going through the middle of each of those top and bottom beads. The side beads only have 1 on each side. When I do a traditional right angle weave, so there's my 2 needle, doing traditional right angle weave here, I have 1 needle. So I only have 1 needle, 1 thread, and what happens is I'm spinning this thread around in a figure 8. I'm going to add the 3 beads all at once onto 1 needle, unlike the 1 on each side and then crisscrossing through. I'm going to go back through the bead that's already there with that single needle, and then depending on which side my needle is coming out, I'm either going to go up through the right or through the left, and then once again, just like I did with the crisscross, put my needle through that top center bead. So I'm getting that same pattern. However, what is changing again is that tension and the thread path. With the 2 needles, again, the beads on the side only have 1 strand of thread through them. The bead in the middle, that's got 2. When it comes to right angle weave, the bead at the base is going to actually have 3 strands. And then every other side is going to have 2 strands going through that bead. I have a little diagram that I wrote out so you can look at these and try to understand them a little bit better. With raw in 1 needle or right angle weave, Your thread, like I'm saying, is going in this series of figure eights. So if you trace with your pen, you're going in these series of figure eights. You'll notice right here at this connection point, there are 3 strands of beads going through that one strand. As I come around to, I have that crisscross of the 2 needle. I'm going around one more time, coming out and going up. So the side needle here has 2 threads, or the side bead there has 2 threads, side bead there has 2 threads, side bead here has 2 threads. So you're using twice as much thread with 1 needle than you are with 2. This may be to your benefit if you want a stiffer base. If you're doing something where you're embellishing on the top, the 2 needle roll actually saves you a fair amount of time and thread. You may be saying, there's no way this is going to save me time or thread because I'm terrible with the left needle. The more you do it, the faster it becomes. When you're doing 2 needle roll, you're going in and you just start with your needle, needle or your thread, a needle on each side. I have the little star here to note that this is very easy then to add or put on a clasp. You put on your clasp right away, cross through that bead, and then you have that diagonal or that crisscross stitch that's going on. Because in the middle of the beads here in the center, you have that thread crisscrossing or diagonal through the middle. Many times I'm asked in different patterns that we have whether or not you can go in and you can switch from 2 needles to 1 needle or vice versa. The answer when you're doing both right angle weave, base it on 1 needle or 2 needle is yes. You just need to recognize what it is and make sure that it's the same results and the same stitch. You can get the same sort of look with a couple other just netted stitches, so you want to make sure that you are in fact doing a 2 needle right angle weave. A really great project that I say for beginners is this diagonal stitch bracelet. These are the instructions here that inside show again how you're going to start out with that 1 piece of thread, and then you're doing that crisscross through the beads. Again, on the top you have your beads that are just going 1 and 1, crisscrossing through that bead and proceeding on to the end. So you start through crisscrossing, you add your beads, you crisscross through again. You can simply do this with 1 needle. All you have to do in your mind is take a pen, a marker, something of that fashion. Take one of those lines, rather the red or the black. I'm going to go with the black. So if I'm starting here with my 1 thread, I'm going around the beads, tracing again so you can see that black line. I'm going to keep going around the beads. I'm going to keep going around the beads, back over to here, and I'm ready to go. So you can redraw the diagram if you want to, if you only want to use 1 thread. This is possible very, very, very often by going through and just again taking a pen, marking it up, especially if you have a PDF that you're just reprinting, marking it up and trying to figure out if you can do this and you really hate 2 needles, why and how to do that. When you are using the 2 needle method, the benefit is that you have those 2 needles or 2 thread ends on at once. Coming here for the start, I'm going through this button with just 1 piece of thread and I'm able to add my clasp right away, rather than figuring out how to tie off the thread and add the clasp. Same when I get to the end here, not right there. That's because you have your 2 thread ends that you can bring and end in the same location. Much is true also when you're looking at the diagonal stitch as well as the 2-layer flower bracelet. The 2-layer flower bracelet is just a series of, again, diagonal stitch or right angle weave. Same deal in here. This is 2 needles, but of course can be done with 1. You have your 2 needles coming through, and instead of 1 bead on each side, you're going with 2 beads on each side, crisscrossing through that central bead and continuing on. You can see in diagram number 2 here of the instructions, that thread path as it's going through and once again crossing over. When you get to the end then, you basically are doing the exact same thing here. So here at the end, I'm coming through as I'm doing my 2nd layer. Whether or not I want to do this as 1 needle and 1 right angle weave, again, draw your diagram if I need to and say, all right, this I did have 2 needles, but now I want to do 1. So let me see. Yep, I know how I'm going. I'm going to draw my thread path. Those connect perfect. And it's just that series of figure 8s. You can also look at the embellishment that's going on the top. And again, look at that and say, all right, how do I do this instead as 1 needle rather than 2? You know, you have your red line there, your black line there, same deal. How do I continue that black line here and make that black line take over the red and just do one strand? So you can look back in here and you can say, oh, yep, this can come through here, then this can come back down again, and that can come there, and so forth. So you can continue looking at the diagrams, assessing whether or not it's going to be more to your benefit to do the 1 versus the 2. If I'm embellishing on the top, like this 2-layer crystal flower, so I have my baseline that you can see there in the red, and then I have my little X's going on with my crystals. It's not really a difference for the base layer how much thread I have going through the beads. If I'm just doing a single strand, you may want that extra thread going through and that extra strength when you're working on it. If you're embellishing the right angle weave or doing a second line of right angle weave, it's almost nice just to have that less amount of thread. Now you can say, is my time or is the thread, which one of these examples, 1 needle or 2 needle, is going to be the quickest and the most efficient and the best time savings? This is where I expect a lot of people to give their opinions on the comments below and weigh in on 1 needle versus 2 needle. The benefit, again, when you are running out of thread and you need to add 1 needle, all I do is if this is a new piece of thread, needle on each end, I cross through that bead with my 1 piece of thread, look, and now I'm ready to go. And I have that ready to go, my new piece of thread, and I'm going to connect the beads down from the base here. So that's the easy function of adding thread to a 1 needle project or 2 needle project. When you're looking at the 1 needle, you are ending your thread, you need to go in, you need to tie off another piece, you need to add your clasp, you need to knot it off somewhere. So if it's something that you're getting faster and faster at with the 2 needles, it is kind of a calming effect to use the 2 needles. However, once you get fast at 1 needle and right angle weave, you can, especially with bigger beads like this, oops, you do the right amount of beads, it's a little bit faster, right? You can add your 3 beads, put them through here, create that link, and see how I'm just kind of pulling as I'm working on it. Done, and on to the next one. So I'm not fiddling with other beads, I'm just picking up, sewing, and going along. So I'm sure this 1 needle versus 2 needle debate will continue, but I wanted to show what that benefit is for the 1 needle versus the 2 needle. The 2 needle, the downfall is, again, you have those 2 needles that you're working with. The upside of the 1 needle, you're just using 1 needle, so it's way less thread possible getting tangled. 2 needles, the nice thing is you can come back down either side of the project rather than one side pulling the tension and going up the other side if you decide to kind of fill in these gaps. The bummer or the nice thing with the 1 needle, you're going to go down one side, you're going to come up the other. That's the bummer. The nice thing is you already have a fair amount more tension because you have extra thread going through the piece. One way in my mind is not correct versus incorrect. You're going to have a lot of people that say, well, with 2 needles, it's not right angle weave. But is right angle weave the weave or the effect that you're getting? It's kind of 50-50. Totally get it. But that's going to be the difference again between the 1 and the 2 needle. Can you take those patterns then that are 2 needles and convert them into 1? Absolutely. Can you take patterns that are 1 needle and convert them into 2? Absolutely. So you're just taking your time to draw a little diagram, whether or not you want to draw this for yourself, that 1 angle. Sit down, draw a piece of paper, draw 4 circles around, 4 circles around, 4 circles around, and figure out just with looking at the thread paths, drawing lines, exactly how your thread needs to go. This is a very, very helpful exercise to do when you are learning right angle weave. Same deal with the 2 right angle weave. You can draw your thread path if you want. This one is very easy and very simple to get, knowing that you have that diagonal stitch. Both stitches are nice, both are easy, both are going to get you that same result. As always, thanks so much for watching this Better Beader episode. I can't wait to see the comments that go below for those in favor of 1 versus 2 needles. Make sure also to, when you comment, say why you like what you like. This honestly helps out this amazing beading community to read through all of these things and take in perspectives that they may not have thought of. That is the amazing thing about being able to comment and kind of give your opinions and help out below. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. These Better Beader episodes are made to help you to become a better beader. Remember, if you do need any supplies or want to check out the site, you can always check out the links below to shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. This hopefully will help people recognize and see the difference between the 1 versus 2 needle right angle weave. Again, I know I've touched on it before, but I think it really helps to bring it back into focus. Look at some of those patterns that we've done and see and do that figuring out on yourself. Again, take the time, do a little diagram, draw a little bit with a nice pen, and it'll help to clarify in your mind, recognizing and seeing some of these stitches. Even if you're repairing something for someone, you can look at the thread path a couple rows back and right away see whether or not it's been with 1 or 2 needles. Is it right angle weave, or is it actually a weird netting or a herringbone, crisscross, diagonal stitch, to figure it all out. As always, thanks so much for watching, and enjoy playing around with your beads, possibly trying out the 1 needle versus the 2 needle versus using a whole different collection, because right angle weave is awesome. Thanks so much, guys, and happy beading.